Hello, my fellow soul gardeners, my GA constituents, and our friends at ohmtimes.com. I have a special lunar eclipse video for you right after this. Soul Garden. Hello, my friends. The Act 3 video orbit report and now audio report on MP3 are both available at soulmart.me. You can dive deep into restoring justice in Libra and those deep boundaries we're cutting in Scorpio, plus information on the solar eclipse, all available at soulmart.me. Namaste, my friends, and thank you for joining me. We have an event on our horizon known as a lunar eclipse happening here in the next 24 hours or so. I've released this video hopefully in time for you to prepare energetically for it. It's going to be an intense lunar eclipse. It's going to be a life-changing one, most certainly. Probably a game-changing one somewhere on the world's stage. And very much so dramatic, because we're talking about a full moon in Aries. We're also talking about many other oppositions going on and other squares that are powerful and affecting us in our life. But first, let's quickly talk about what a lunar eclipse is. As you know, from being a human on Earth, once a month we get a full moon. But every so often, the sun, the earth, and the moon line up to where the Earth's shadow will fall on the moon. In certain continents, you'll see it anyways. So the Earth eclipses the moon's light, and the Earth's shadows fall on the moon. Now, in this particular time, in our personal lives, our own shadows fall on the moon. The Earth's shadows fall on the moon. Our shadows, what we're afraid of, what we don't want to look at, what we have been ignoring all this time, falls on the moon, on an eclipse, on a lunar eclipse. Now, always a little of our shadow falls on the moon. It's always operating in that regard. That's what the moon does. And when it goes full, it has intense full energy. And when it has its most energy, that's when human beings are most compelled to do something or act or, maybe not do something that has any plans behind it, right? And we all howl at the moon, right? This goes far back. So in this case, we're talking about full intensity full moon at the end of summer, at the harvest season, which is always an intense one. And in your particular case, a huge swelling emotionally of your identity, Aries, a full moon in Aries. So on the one hand, you're going to be really just full of yourself. But I got bad news for you. Everyone on planet Earth will be full of themselves. It's kind of a simultaneous thing that happens to all of us. And on the other side of that full moon, us emotionally being full of ourselves, is the sun in Libra. And so the sun in Libra is negotiating, giving, and receiving. That's what Libra's about. When you give and you receive. When should I give? When should I get? How much? Is it fair? Libra. Balance. Balance is the giving and receiving is equal. All month long, depending on your sign, you've been working on restoring equality to your life and balance to your life and to your moment, and therefore peace, restoring peace. Well, that story of finding peace has reached its head. A full moon in Aries. Not just a full moon, but a full moon that will happen to have our particular fears and shadows on it, right? Casting like the Batman signal over Earth. All right, and this comes down to a tug of war. That's what a full moon is, a tug of war between the sun and the moon. And in the middle of our emotions, the moon, and what we love, the sun, is us, Earth, our life in material form at this moment in the planetary time, right? And so you're going to find that you are caught between the moon and New York City, so to speak, caught between 2 points in your life somehow. These probably are not new by any means. I mean, you've built up to it. But because of other planets and what I'm going to describe next, this particular harvest moon, all right, is going to maybe change chess pieces on the board forever. And we'll start as to the whys with Saturn. In this particular lunar eclipse, you have to take into account the other planets going on at that moment. So, kind of think of yourself. As we are out there in the world, we are light casting our own reality. We are manifestation as we step in each step. We are manifesting, right? And whatever voices are with you, if you have music playing, if you have friends with you, it changes the mood, it changes the experience of manifestation. The planets work very similarly in the sense that the planets are also playing a tune. So in this particular lunar eclipse, you have this harmony of other things going on in your life at the time of being tested. And because of this harmony, it does greatly affect how the hero performs in that moment, or how the young light caster performs. So in this particular lunar eclipse, where we're going to face some of our Earth shadows, we have a strange and bizarre symphony playing in the background, a very intense one. In fact, if I were to give it any kind of analogy in music, I would say this is a car chase scene music. Very intense, John Williams car chase scene in space, I guess, at Star Wars, right? So let's start with that. It starts with Saturn. Saturn, has been trucking along in Scorpio, and really Saturn is, at the end of the day, I think what gets credit for making the seriousness and the absoluteness of this next 4 days. Because Saturn says at 12 degrees at the time of the eclipse, love and trust all the boundaries you've ever had to draw in the last year, since the last Halloween of 2012, fall of 2012, love and trust all those boundaries, feel what you need to do, and then wing it. That's right. Saturn says, then wing it. All right, so there's an openness there. See, openness of like, anything could happen, because we're willing to take Saturn and be flexible with it at 12 degrees. Our mind, Mercury, is at 18 degrees. P.S., it's going to go retrograde next week after this event. It goes backwards and reverses over all this territory. And so Mercury is ahead, of course, always ahead. Now it feels ahead, and it's at 18 degrees, which means that your mind is going to be, at the time of the eclipse, running forward with a decision you've already made. Your mind will already be acting on a decision you've already made. This is a boundary decision. A boundary decision that's at 18 degrees, where Saturn is toeing the line at 12. You're trying to just open up to some more boundaries, or open up emotionally some trust, open up some trust, but your mind is trying to take you to 18, and that is also action. It's not just a decision, it's that you intend to act. That is the emotional setup of protection on the eclipse. That's how you're emotionally protected or set up. All right? Now, in that Saturn space of boundaries loosey-goosey, could do anything, the sun is at 25 degrees. The moon will be full at 25 degrees Aries. It's opposite. 25 is a master shui degree. It is the energetics of the emotions plus thought. When emotions and thought are focused together, you open up spiritually, which is, I sense, and so this is an incredibly spiritual degree, 25. The most spiritual in the 20s. And so we are opened up on a spiritual level. We are opened up on a Saturn and emotional level. And that's the beginning of the transit. So here we are, kind of pinned open. What else is going on? Well, there's also an opposition going on between Mars and Neptune at precisely 2 degrees. I love the universe. It doesn't screw around at all. Neptune and Mars, 2 degrees at this moment in time. So they're squared off. Now Mars is your ego, your aggressor. If you are a GA person, I call it the dumbass. Mars is the dumbass, the one that always screws it up. Mars, get back here, boy, right? And Neptune, of course, is our la-di-da side of us that kind of wants to tune out and tune in, man. Log in. DJ Dewey's a Neptune-based character. So you have literally the part of you that could screw things up or go too far, opposing the part of you that just wants to take off and go, or not even pay attention, or not going to look both ways before you cross the street. The part of you that crosses the street is across from the part of you that doesn't want to look. So you put this into play. And Mars is in Virgo, and Neptune is in Pisces, and so Neptune in Pisces is at home, so this is like a way cranked up spiritual vibration vortex, Neptune there, in retrograde. But Mars is giving 2 degrees in Virgo, is giving a huge, adding fuel to whatever the details of reality are that bug you. So I have to say, you will most likely be poked somewhere that you don't want to be poked. And part of you is going to want to just go, goodbye. And part of you is going to be like, let's fight. And those parts of you are going to be going like different directions, right? So two states of awareness fighting on each other like that. But wait, there's more. Of course, there's the sun and the moon, which is a fight in itself, so to speak, or an opposition, so to speak. And of course, that is what we love is over here, what we feel is over there. So the sun and the moon in itself will be, our emotions really amped up. By the way, the moon in Aries does what? It empowers Mars. What's Mars? The dumbass. So the full moon actually empowers the dumbass part of the equation that was fighting with the hippie inside of you. So just so you know, go back to that add energy to dumbass equation. Now it's a little untipped, isn't it? So we have this full moon, and the full moon is in a sense your emotions, and in Aries, it is your emotions about what I am, and what I am here to do, and I am this, and I am that, and I am not your this, and I am not your that, right? You can feel the arguments. I am not your maid. That is a full moon in Aries statement for sure. And it opposes the part of you that's like, well, maybe we should try and get along. And so where does the human being go in all this? Well, wait, I have a couple more things to put on the fire here. One is a square that's been going on forever, and it is this nasty square between Pluto and Uranus. Uranus is a planet is of undoing, and Uranus is in Aries, and so Uranus is saying we have to remodel ego, which is Aries, the full moon, and is the dumbass in the field. So Uranus has this force that is trying to change that dumbass and make your ego, the part of you that executes the plan, it's the part of it is. It's just the part that gets on the treadmill, the part that says no. It's really the simplest part of us. That part of us needs to be less simple now with Uranus and Aries. Problem is the part of us that wants to change that part of us is in a fight with the part of us that says what the rules are. So you want to change your ego. You don't want your dumbass to piss all over the carpet. You don't want your ego to go too far. But on the other hand, the moon just filled up with nothing but ego. So I am sure tempted now, out of any time during the year to go too far, I would be tempted now with the moon full, right? And underneath all of this, there is this call of Uranus to innovate and change the dumbass at the same time that it's in play at a dramatic moment. Yes, yes, and yes. So you can see this particular eclipse is at a kind of interesting and treacherous time within us. And I have to say that the part of us that's trying to evolve and change our ego, that part of us is trying to evolve and change our ego, it's afraid that it's going to break rules. That's the square to Pluto and Capricorn. And I have to tell you, folks, we are going to break rules. Pluto and Capricorn says, the rules aren't working. If you haven't noticed, most of the world isn't happy. We have the capacity to feed everyone, and we're not. We're not really figuring this out. We need to kind of come to that reality. It's kind of like the Pilgrims landing on Plymouth Rock the last time. Actually, that wasn't the last time. That was 2 times ago when Pluto was in Capricorn. We came to the United States. I'm speaking from a U.S.-centric position. Hello to all of our European and everyone else. I'm sorry. But, Pluto was in Capricorn when the Pilgrims came and said, screw organized religion, Martin Luther, nailing that proclamation to the door. Pluto goes into Capricorn later, boom, we want independence from Great Britain. Pluto's in Capricorn now. All I'm saying is, the way you see it now is not the way it will be. And the square between Pluto and Uranus is, in fact, a fight in yourself between evolving your ego but not wanting to break certain rules. And most of these rules what I'm talking about, I'm not saying go out and start a revolution. I'm saying for you to make love to your wife tonight would be a revolution. You know what I mean? I'm saying there's a revolution in yourself right now that allows your ego to be different. That revolution allowing your ego to be different is what will allow you down on the field with Mars versus the hippie, where the hippie needs to pay attention and tune in, and Mars needs to listen to the hippie in order to not go too far, And that maybe is the evolution of the Mars. Maybe Mars never did listen to the hippie. Maybe you didn't listen to your intuition. Maybe you never accounted for that. Maybe there is no GPS in the football field. But now the new evolved Uranus and Aries, this new, touchdown quarterback Mars, this new one has to listen to higher self, Neptune, has to work with Neptune. And that, I think, is the innovated Uranus and Aries. That is the innovated. But all of this will probably mean you break rules that you used to have in life or for yourself. And therefore, there is a re-evolution going on inside your soul. And gosh golly, with the moon full in Aries and the Batman signal on, you sure are feeling it, right? And this is where we are with the eclipse. So what do we do? Well, I have one more piece of the puzzle to tell you. I've waited to tell you a little parachute that God Universe has provided, a parachute, and that is a soul pyramid. We have a grand trine in water triggered by Black Lilith, which is an asteroid, another story, another day, but very important to the story. Black Lilith is trining up to Saturn in Scorpio, which is trining over to Friends, Chiron at 9 degrees in Pisces. This is a grand trine of water, an emotional flow between 3 points within you. And so this is also a stirring of the pot that the universe is doing with this eclipse. And the stirring of the pot is to get your emotions and passion, I think, going and flowing. And with Black Lilith at one corner, you are releasing old rage from past life. I mean, deep, deep emotional echo. In Cancer, of course, Jupiter is trailblazing ahead of her and creating new emotional territory. So you are moving it. This is in some ways emotionally brand new for everyone on Earth. We haven't expanded this much and since 2001, on 9/11 when Jupiter was in Cancer, this particular same kind of year of emotional growing up, maturing. So you're pushing for the maturing, and that emotional maturing and cutting away the past is tied in to the part of Saturn that's risking to change the boundaries in the first place. Remember the beginning of this video. You're risking to change boundaries. So the party you're risking to change boundaries is tied to the party that's willing to jump. That's tied to the hippie. Oh, well, not really. It's Chiron, which is the royal nurse or the energy that heals you. But Chiron and the hippie are working close. They're in conjunction. And so basically, thank God, God Universe sent Chiron to save the hippie part of us. You have to listen, pray, log in, meditate, chant, whatever you do it. But do it so that the hippie has a signal. The part of us that's willing to try anything has a signal. That signal is, of course, important for the quarterback, the one that's actually going to pull the switch or say you're laid off or I want a divorce. That part of you that plays that final, that part of you needs to listen to the psychic part of you, and that might be the new part of you, says this lunar eclipse full moon, in my opinion. But because of Saturn in Scorpio and because of all these planets and all these different plays, I have to say that this will likely be some moment in the next 24, 36 hours that in fact changes your life. There will be a game changer. Of course, there's always things you didn't expect. There's always some sort of surprise you didn't plan for. And of course, that's where God Universe is. Surprise! Oh, welcome. And so what I advise everyone that I counsel personally is to step into your own inner passion. Step 25 tells us very clearly that during the entire exercise, we want to be in spirit. And being in spirit comes from taking our emotion, taking our thoughts, and focusing them to accompany our emotion, not to be a jerk, and take your emotions and your thoughts and align them. That allows you to hear spirit, because you've quieted down the inner infant and you've quieted down the smartass. That's what I call the mind. And once they're quiet because they're talking to each other, they have plenty to say, you can rise above that noise and live in your psychic awareness. Live in that in the next 24 hours. The full moon in Aries will compel you. Please wear your seatbelts, and please don't do anything stupid or anything you shouldn't do, because this is the one full moon where we tend to see road accidents and things like that. I love you. Thanks so much for watching. I look forward to seeing you. I do have one last thing. Now, this video, of course, is designed for everyone to watch. But you might be wondering, Chris, where does it hit me? Good question. Well, I've gone a little extra step here, and I've written up a grid that's available at soulmart.me. And this grid will tell for each sign what those polarities are, so where it's pulling, what parts of your life are pulling or whatever. Take a look at it. I also have videos called the Act 3 videos. If you don't own one, the Act 3 videos or the Jupiter Gets Emotional videos, they're both on sale. You can buy one right away. It's a great gratitude thing, and it will coach you, each of these videos, through this as well, but on a much deeper 3-month perspective. So that would be grateful. And otherwise, I'll see you at soulmart.me, or I'll be back soon with your next week of horoscopes. Thank you so much. Good luck in the eclipse. Namaste.